So, Knives Out, huh?
Knives Out. Yeah. So
First, actually,
we.
before we go down the rabbit hole of the movie, I gotta ask, what are you drinking, Dustin?
Well, I'm drinking rum, John. Rummed up
Rummed
reviews.
up for
First show, we got to drink rum, right?
Cheers to that, man. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. So, if you're curious what kind of rum I'm drinking Bayou rum.
Bayou rum. Never heard
Yeah,
of it.
it's made in Louisiana, I believe. I don't remember. It's got this really cool logo of like a crocodile on the front.
All right.
It's good stuff. It's really smooth.
Okay.
I think it's smooth.
Okay.
I don't drink a lot of rum, so
I guess that's true. I'm the rum drinker. No,
you're the rum drinker.
I'm enjoying.
Can you really call yourself that though?
Why not?
Well, because you just drank Captain back in college.
Yeah, in college. Nowadays, I drink. Today, I'm having a wonderful Appleton Estate signature blend. I've also opened up the doors to such great delicacies as Appleton Estate Reserve Blend and
okay.
Pirate. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's the one that comes in the little. I sent you guys a picture of it when I bought it. It had the little charm on it, and stand by to this day. Like, it's a good rum. But it is so unique because if you don't let it breathe, then it just tastes like kerosene. But if you let it breathe, you get all these fruit flavors in it. So,
I mean, we'll have to go into later on in the show, like actually reviewing rums, like where we set out some rums and then we actually review them.
We'll have to try that,
and we'll totally butcher it.
Maybe someday when we're in person.
Right, exactly. Because COVID right now, we're all doing COVID and the fact that. You're in Topeka, Kansas. I'm in Des Moines, Iowa. This is why we're not doing this in person.
That is true. So,
but
all right.
Anyway,
going back.
Yeah. So Knives Out. This was a movie that I watched a while ago, and it intrigued me. From the trailer right away. Like with murder. Opening up with like a Clue-esque vibe, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Why, I guess, what drew you to the movie right away?
Ooh, well, as you know, I'm a big movie nerd.
Yeah.
So, I guess a couple things. Like, with Knives Out, it has a just all-star cast of people in it. So that was intriguing from the jump. But, a cast doesn't always mean anything. But no, pretty similar to what you said, I'd say, right? Like the you don't see a lot of mysteries anymore, a lot of murder mysteries anymore. And so that was an intriguing, like, okay, let's see what we got. And also I feel like I had seen the trailer for this like very conveniently. Right after I had watched the movie Murder on the Orient Express. So I was like in a headspace of like murder mystery, solving it, figuring it out. And I was like, and then I see this trailer and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to go see that movie.
Yeah, no, Murder on the Orient Express, that could be a whole nother episode. That's also a good movie.
It is.
For sure.
It's going to be talked about. I'm going to bring it up a few times today. I'm just telling you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I guess for those that don't know, Knives Out, basically, the plot is there's this wealthy businessman or wealthy author who's written conveniently all these murder
mystery novels.
Mystery novels, right? And then, he ends up dead and it looks like a suicide, but is it a suicide?
Bum, bum, bum.
Exactly. Right. And then, the story follows the protagonist. What was her name?
Marta?
Marta, yes. The protagonist, because she was really close.
Played by Ana de Armas, who is currently dating Ben Affleck.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, like, getting into the whole Dynamite cast thing, that doesn't necessarily mean much to me because I don't know movie actors that well. Obviously, Daniel Craig, yes. Chris Evans, yes. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, yes.
Can you tell me where Joseph Gordon-Levitt's at in the movie?
Where he's at? What do you mean?
Well, because you've identified that he's in the movie, which I find really interesting because most people don't know that.
Oh, well, the only reason that I would the only reason that I know Joseph Gordon-Levitt's name is because I pulled it up on Wikipedia, and I've seen him in other movies, obviously, right? So do you want me to say what his?
Yeah. Do you know what he does in the movie?
Oh, you know what? I think I'm getting it mixed up with somebody else.
You definitely are, because Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in the movie, but he's not one of the main characters. You never actually see him on screen.
Yeah. Okay. So like when I pulled up the information for this movie, Detective Hadrock voice cameo.
Yeah.
So that's totally not who I'm thinking.
No, he's the voice of a character. He's the voice of the detective that I think Marta's sister, the TV show she's listening to, whenever it first introduces Marta in the kitchen, and her mom like yells at her, and she's like, "Marta's friend just died." The detective,
the show that you don't actually really see,
is Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh my gosh. Okay, now I'm gonna have to look that up because like I've already said, I'm not good with actors, so clearly I don't know who I just got that mixed up with.
I don't either, but.
Yeah, so I mean, overall, another thing I guess that really drew me to the movie from the trailer that I watched was, just the production quality of the trailer. And once you get into the movie, you realize immediately that the production quality is really good, and the cinematography and everything that they did for the movie was great.
Right.
Me having a graphic design background. And drawn to that.
Oh, I can imagine. See, that's it. It's definitely a very well shot film, and that comes through in the trailer. So, the cinematography overall, they used a lot of just really good practical effects. The CGI that they do use is pretty solid.
They use CGI?
They do. In fact, a fun fact about the movie. There's one particular piece of CGI that occurs a lot that most people don't know. I certainly didn't know until recently. The portrait of Christopher Plummer's character, the central figure, the mystery, Harlan
Thrombey.
Harlan, yeah.
Harlan Thrombey.
The portrait of him that they constantly show was entirely CGI because they didn't have it done in time for the film. So they just filmed a green screen portrait and then digitally added the picture in later.
Okay. So, another thing that I really loved about the movie was production design or, set design.
Yeah.
I loved all of that. And something that I noticed, because they kept cutting back to that picture that you're referencing, which I had no idea was CGI. Yeah. But did you notice that the knife that he kills himself was in that portrait?
Yeah. Yep. It's the exact same knife.
It's just such a great way of pulling everything together.
Oh yeah, just very subtly consistently reminding you, right?
Right, consistently reminding that the man committed suicide. Allegedly suicide.
Allegedly.
Yeah, so I don't know. So this movie came out, let's see, a year ago. I don't actually have the date.
I think it was actually 2018, wasn't it?
It was 2019, but I didn't write down the month. I should have wrote down the month. Next episode, we'll get that. So it's probably almost 2 years old.
Yeah.
I want to say, yeah. And what's interesting is they're actually working on a second one, which is cool. Probably not going to have the same cast from what I was reading.
No, I think the only character that's supposed to come back is Daniel Craig's.
Oh, really? Yeah. So I was reading about that, and I couldn't quite tell if he was coming back or not. So
yeah. So one of the things with this movie too is I told you I was going to bring up Murder on the Orient Express a few times. Rian Johnson, director. Which can you tell me what else he's directed, famously?
Well, yes, I can because I pulled this information up and I was gonna because I had no idea what order we were gonna do this episode in. Are we just gonna run down through all the stats?
I don't know.
Well,
you're the one with the model here.
Some people Yeah. Model. The model was maybe get a little drunk and review this movie.
Talk about a movie.
No. Some people might know or have heard of the movie called Looper, which was made a while back with Bruce Willis and
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. But the big one that everyone should know, if you have been paying attention to any movies recently, would probably have to be what, John? Star Wars?
That would be Star Wars, The Last, Jedi. Yeah.
And depending on who you are, that was a great movie, and it was also like, why are you killing our child?
Yeah, no, it's either like, yeah, no, this is a fine like next step in this new trilogy, or this is the biggest heaping pile of garbage I've ever seen, and let's all run Rian Johnson out of Hollywood.
Yeah. And honestly, looking back real quick, I wouldn't have minded him because he didn't direct the other two, right? They kicked him off, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, no, he was supposed to get his own trilogy.
Right.
And then they said nope.
Because they cut him just like they cut the main character in this movie.
Exactly. Yeah, no. He was supposed to do The Last Jedi and then do his own trilogy separate from the Skywalker saga.
Right. Yeah.
But then after massive backlash, they were like, maybe not.
So. Maybe not. And I enjoyed that movie, but anyway,
that's a whole different conversation.
That is a whole different conversation. We probably should stray away from that rabbit hole.
We're not drunk enough for that one yet.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Interestingly enough, though, when I was doing a little research on the movie, my bad. The producer Ram Bergman. He and Rian Johnson kind of like go hand in hand, it looks like. So like, he also produced Star Wars. Ram Bergman produced Star Wars, Last Jedi, Looper, and then some of the other movies that Rian Johnson has directed. Let's see, The Brothers Bloom. I haven't heard
that
of
one. I've not heard of. No.
Yeah, he didn't really have that many movies that he actually has directed. Right. I mean, he did, but. Not well known at all. Yeah. He did actually, interestingly enough, direct a few episodes of Breaking Bad, which I haven't seen any episodes of. And one of our friends, Jack Davidson, out there, he would probably
stab you,
hurt me. Yeah.
Be like poor Christopher Plummer.
Why? Yeah, he's always like, yeah, exactly. But yeah, getting the trains back on track. Let's talk more about the movie that we're trying to review right now.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, hold on. Let me bring it back to kind of how we went down that little rabbit hole. Rian Johnson has stated this movie, like his inspiration came from a lot of the childhood like murder mystery movies and books that he had read in his childhood. In particular, Agatha Christie's works. So, Murder on the Orient Express, the ABC murders, all of those things.
Okay. Okay. See, you throw her name out there.
You're like, I don't know what the hell that is. Yeah. So this movie is inspired by that body of work, and there's a number of Easter eggs and like things that are laden to relate back to that. So I don't remember why I originally was going to bring that up, but I just remembered that was the whole reason we brought up Rian Johnson.
You were probably like, I need to bring up all of the Orient Express, Murder on the Orient Express.
Keep throwing it out there.
I can't. You just got to keep throwing it. Okay. Well, jumping back in, another thing that I really enjoyed about this movie was the way they opened up and presented the, diverse cast.
Yeah.
Like the character, they not only presented the diverse cast, but they presented the characters well with, the interviews right kind of off the bat. I have no idea on the timestamp on which, they actually started interviewing people for the murder. But, just the way that they had everyone come in one by one. They introduced, Daniel Craig's character, Bennett Blanc, with him just over there in the shadows, listening as, they're all telling their individual stories. Yeah. And then either randomly or, you know, maybe intentionally hitting the piano at certain notes?
So if you pay attention, it's almost a Pavlonian thing. Pavlov. Every time Blanc hits the note on the piano, the detective, I cannot remember his name right now, always then immediately goes, "Oh, right, before I forget," and then asks all of them the exact same question.
Okay. I did not notice that. I will be honest, when I watched this movie last night, or rewatched the movie last night, I was a little drunk.
Already, wow.
It was, yeah, you know, just, no, no. That's really interesting, though.
Yeah. So it was his signal, I guess, to like ask that particular question.
Right. And then, you know, as the movie progresses a little bit there, it's like, excuse me, who the fuck are
yeah.
you?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I loved about the way they introduced the cast too is they very subtly tell you from the beginning that all of these people are full of shit.
Yes.
and
yes.
I mean, like, it pretty rapidly, like, blatantly tells you. But I mean, just the for example, when the Scream Queen herself, Jamie Lee Curtis, it's you're gonna learn more about that part of her history as we go into the Halloween episodes.
What?
Whole thing, Jamie Lee, short truncated version. Jamie Lee Curtis became known as the Scream Queen because during kind of the really sharp rise of her career, she played a lot of female protagonists in horror movies, particularly slasher films. And she obviously was always trying to get away, and she would scream in every one of these movies. She became known as the Scream Queen, Jamie Lee Curtis, most famously, of course, playing Laurie Strode in the Halloween franchise, and then also the original Prom Night. Great movies. But
those are younger years for Jamie Lee Curtis. Then, correct?
Yeah. That's like that's like 80s, 90s era.
Okay, because honestly, this is gonna sound probably bad, but isn't she the mom in Freaky Friday?
Yeah. I was gonna say that's what you know her from, isn't it?
Lindsay Lohan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, that's her. So anyway, when she tells her story, right, it does the little flashback to Thrombey's birthday. And it shows like her and her husband and her kids around, except Ransom, not Ransom, but like around around him, right? With the birthday cake coming down. And then when Michael Shannon's character, Walt, tells the story and it does the flashback, it's the exact same shot-for-shot scene, except it's Walt and his wife and his kids around him. And so, like, immediately you're like, oh, okay, these guys are all... like, their stories already don't line up. Like, before you know anything else about them, it's an immediate signal... oh, okay, we're just getting really unreliable characters here.
Right. No, like the way the script was written is just on point. Like I don't think I really have any gripes with the way the story was written at all. And, you know, speaking of which, the writer was also Rian Johnson.
Of course.
Wrote and directed the movie.
There's a lot of, like, he was clearly working on this beforehand, but there's kind of this fan theory out there that this was him, like, basically giving the middle finger to all of the trolls from Star Wars, like, that hated him over what he did to Star Wars, and like said he was a horrible director and a horrible writer and he didn't know what he was doing and blah blah blah. And so there's this kind of theory that he, like, put it all on the line in this movie just to be like, screw you guys, I am good, suck it.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. I mean, I can see it.
Well, and he did say that the one thing that lends some credence to that is he did say, I think it's Jacob Thrombey, we don't see a lot of him, the Nazi boy,
The alt-right
youth's not Nazi kid. He did say in an interview, if I'm remembering what I read correctly, that he based that character off of the online internet trolls from Star Wars. Because he's been very outspoken about like calling those people trolls, and so he was just like, yeah, no, I based that character off of those people.
Yep, and going back to the interview process there at the beginning of the movie, when they were interviewing the other character that you mentioned.
Walt?
Yes, Walt. Thank you. Also, side note, I feel complete side note. It might just be me, but does he look like Peter Dinklage a little bit?
No.
Maybe. You don't think
Michael
so? Like,
Shannon does not look like Peter Dinklage at all.
You don't think so? Like I was comparing the two, and I was like, maybe.
Well, I mean, to start off, Michael Shannon is like 2 feet taller.
I didn't want to go that route. I really didn't want to go that route. Anyway, okay, coming back. When they were interviewing Walt Fombury, Michael Shannon, he mentioned, the power of the internet, right?
Yeah, and how he doesn't understand the internet too.
Right, exactly. So like, I could see, Rian Johnson like.
Yeah, no, he's definitely like
freaking trolls.
Yeah, he's shoving his thumb in their face and telling them off and. He's poking that bear, as my grandmother used to say. He's poking the bear.
Yeah, exactly. So, going on, progressing through the story, finally kind of coming to, what's her? I'm awful at names, especially like when I watch the movies. I'm always like that movie, Marta.
Marta.
Yes, Marta. Right. So we finally get to her, right?
Yeah.
After we've interviewed everybody else, we finally get to her, and the point where she's like, or where the detective says like, well, I have a little birdie that said that you can't lie.
You have a what is the exact phrase he uses? A regurgitative reaction to mistruthing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm gonna start using that line, by the way, for everything.
Well, I have to give Daniel Craig a ton of credit and his voice coach for sure, because he probably didn't grow up in the South.
Daniel Craig's British, right?
No, I know, right? Exactly.
So he definitely didn't grow up in the South.
I know. So, but like, just the fact that he can do that is just, I think that's great.
I mean, that's why he's an actor.
Well, yes. Obviously. That's why he's an actor, and
I know you want to talk about Marta some more in her regurgitative reaction to mistruthing, but real quick, I'm gonna side rail this again. Since you brought up Daniel Craig's character and in particular his accent, I know from a prior conversation when you first watched the movie, you said you actually like at first you didn't really like it, but then it grew on you. So now that you've gone back and watched it again and all of this, like, just generally, like, what are your thoughts on all of that? And then I have a couple things to throw in on it, obviously.
Honestly, like, the first time you watch Daniel Craig with that accent, knowing that he's British, and then watching him in the Bond movies, you just have kind of like a gut check, right? You're like, whoa, what? Yeah. Excuse me?
Oh, yeah.
So... the second time through, knowing that was already a thing, it just, I guess it didn't even hit me. It didn't faze me because I knew, I was already expecting.
Right.
So, again, it's more of like an appreciation thing. Like, wow,
right.
That's really awesome that, he can do that. And I think he did it really well.
Definitely. One of the things a lot of people, his accent is something that some folks don't love. About the movie because they feel like it's overdone.
Really?
They feel like it's overdone. But one of the things, bringing up Agatha Christie and the Murder on the Orient Express again. Perrault from her stories, Detective Perrault. He obviously has this really thick French accent. Every time he's been properly represented. Rian Johnson again went on to say that he viewed Daniel Craig's character Blanc in this movie as the American Pedro, which again is really ironic because Daniel Craig's British, but also it almost plays into again that tribute to Agatha Christie that Johnson's doing here, because every time that Pedro has been played on screen, Perrault is supposed to be French. He's always been played by like an Englishman, a Scotsman, or an Irishman. He's never actually been played by a Frenchman. And so, like, there's a lot of people that don't love Craig's accent in the movie because they feel like it's being overdone. It's like, no, that's the point. Mm-hmm. The point is it's supposed to be hammy. It's supposed to be larger than life. It's supposed to be that very like, and they at one point blatantly say it in the movie, but it is like Craig himself. One of like 3 inspirations he listed off for how he came to that. That's the voice he wanted to do. Is Foghorn Leghorn. Like, it's supposed to be this like over the top, ridiculous country Southern accent.
And it really just kind of plays into the larger than life character, that they're presenting, like this detective that just comes in out of nowhere, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Also being paid off by some random person.
Randomly,
right?
Yeah.
Right. And where I was going, like when they start to interview, bringing it full circle, when they start to interview Marta and, we kind of start to get the backstory, and, I might be a little off on the timeline here, but, you start to hear her story and see the background of like what actually happened.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, they're trying to pin this all on Marta. It looks like she did it.
Right.
So, but it's like, but she didn't, obviously, right? And then, you bringing in and then bringing in the detective being paid off by somebody. Who's paying him off?
Well, I think it's incorrect to say he's paid off. He's not paid off.
Well,
he's
right.
paid for
exactly
by an anonymous person.
A large stack
by
of money.
An envelope. An envelope, that's all it took. An envelope of cash.
An envelope, yep, an envelope. Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing one of those show up at my doorstep.
That's no joke.
But yeah, just the way that like everything was played into like that. I have to ask. When you watched it the first time, who do you think you were really like? Okay, no, this is who did it. Because like that's it's again kind of like a game of Clue as you're watching this movie.
Yeah,
murder mystery.
Well, that's a good question. I really don't. I thought, and again, it's because I had relatively recently seen Murder on the Orient Express. I thought that's the angle they were going to go with. I really did. And spoiler alert for anybody that doesn't know this story that's like 50 years old at this point.
Skip like 10 seconds ahead, 30 seconds ahead.
Skip ahead. But the conclusion of that movie, right, is that, well, everybody did it. And I was like,
right.
Okay, like, is that what we're going to do? We're just going to do the everybody did it story. Like, they all had a motive. They all did it.
They all did.
Except for Marta. I didn't think Marta did it from the beginning. I was like, she didn't do this.
Right. She had nothing to gain. Like, and the way that it was written is like, yes, she came in, she was helping, she was a good friend, but like, if anything, he was gonna like.
She became a good friend.
What?
She became a good friend, but she was definitely hired as a nurse first.
She was definitely hired as.
I think to summarize it though, Daniel Craig's character says it best. She has a good heart.
Exactly. So it's like you're not wanting to think that she did it, but then it's kind of like, well, maybe she did just kind of fuck it.
I don't think she did that, but
right. Where do you want to go next?
We're gonna take a brief pause because I need to go refill my drink.
That sounds good. I'm gonna review my notes, so it's a perfect spot.
All right, review your notes, figure it out, and I'll be back.
Rum'd. Up. Reviews.
All right, we're back.
So you have a question?
Yes, John, I had a question for you. I noticed as I was watching the movie that they referenced like a lot of different places that Marta was from, um, like
Yeah.
Paraguay, Ecuador, maybe Uruguay,
Brazil.
Brazil. Yeah, at the end, I noticed that somebody was like Brazilian nurse, right? So it's like, but wait, I thought she was a part of the family.
I think that's the whole point, right? Like.
Oh yeah, no, I know, and that's just a tribute to the writing and the genius behind all of it. Is just like, yes, she's a part of the family. We love her. She's we're gonna take care of her.
Well, the real like, in case you're not picking up on that, this is one thing I think Rian Johnson did really well in the film, and everybody that worked on it. But they do a great job of like laying a lot out in the subtext. Like if you're paying attention, you're gonna pick it up. But then also like in case you're not good at being at picking up on subtleties, uh, they kind of slap it in your face a little bit sometimes, but in a good way, like not in a way that's like not in a bad way, but they do it in such a way that makes it so poignant. So, for example, if you're just not picking up on the subtlety of like, man, they've changed the place she's from, like every time they talk about her, the culmination of like, hey, all of this, like, she's part of the family is bullshit thing, is when they're having the conversation on immigration. And Don Johnson's character, which loved Don Johnson too, shout out childhood. His character Richard, um, Jamie Lee's husband,
Yeah.
um, he like calls her in to get her perspective right. Starts talking to, well, your family did it the right way. And before she even has a moment to talk, like the whole family continues to talk over each other, and he hands her his plate like she's the
Oh,
help.
wow, I didn't catch that part.
Yeah. So it's like that. It's like if you aren't paying attention enough to pick up the fact that they really don't care about her. Like that is the epitome of like, hey, let's bring you in because you're an immigrant with firsthand experience. We're gonna ask you a question that we don't actually want you to answer. Now take my dirty plate because I'm done eating.
And we're gonna talk over you the entire time.
And we're just gonna keep talking.
Answer the question.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy. I did not catch that. Man, that's a lot of good subtext, and like I think the actors, like all of them, again being the cast that they are, did an amazing job of portraying the characters that they were.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
It was like you really just felt it was believable, right? Like in some instances, you watch a movie and she's like, okay, yeah, no, like I don't see that at all. Like even Daniel Craig's character, like, wow, Southern accent, crazy. And then we haven't talked about him a whole lot yet. Chris Evans, right?
Yeah, man.
I mean, everyone knows Chris Evans from what?
Captain America, right?
Exactly. So then,
or if you're an OG, you know him as the Human Torch from Fantastic Four.
no, I barely remember that movie. I just kind of tried to block it out of my memory.
Oh man! Hey, let's be real. It's the best version of the Fantastic Four we've got.
Fair, that's fair. But going back to Chris Evans, just in the contrast that he portrays with Captain America, and then this guy comes in and is like eating Biscoff cookies as he's like telling everyone off. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous, and it's believable though. At the same time, going full circle again, I felt like it was all believable.
Absolutely.
But yeah. So I mean, which this is probably actually a really good point. Maybe we want to start going into who did it.
Yeah, I think we need to go down that rabbit hole. So I mean, if you're somebody that's not seen the movie,
yes,
take a pause here, or if you just don't give a shit, continue to listen.
Continue to listen, please.
But one of the things, because I mean, like, this is obviously this is the explanation point of the movie, right? Like, So the biggest twist, in my opinion, honestly, isn't even, as a movie fan, wasn't even the one at the end where you find out who actually kicked all of these dominoes into motion here, but is like a quarter of the way through the fucking movie. They show you that no, Thrombey did slit his own throat. And so when you asked me earlier, you were like, well, who did you think did it? That was where I was like, all right, I was trying to figure it out. I was trying to outsmart the movie. And then the moment that it shows like what happened that fateful night with Harlan, I was like, wait, so what the fuck is this movie about?
Because he clearly committed suicide.
Yeah, I was like, okay, so the movie is not actually a murder mystery, but how is she gonna like not get blamed for it? Like, is that the movie? And then obviously as it develops, it does the ending is fantastic. But I will stand by that. For me, the biggest twist was that moment, because as a moviegoer and as someone that's as big of a fan of movies in general, that was a moment where I genuinely went, oh, I don't know what to expect next now. Like, I really don't. And that's something that honestly, I can say is a pretty rare thing for me. In most cases, even if a movie does pull something out of its ass in terms of like the surprise twist, like you can usually follow the formula. And this movie did such a good job of subverting that. Mm-hmm. That, in my opinion, is the greatest accomplishment of Rian Johnson in this film, is that I equate it, and you're going to chuckle at this because you know my love for this movie. I truly feel this movie is trying to do, and we'll see if it succeeds moving forward, for the genre of like the murder mystery, what Scream did for the genre of horror, in particular the slashers.
The slasher films.
Because the entire thing is it plays on the tropes, it makes them larger than life, but then it completely subverts the genre as it stands. And is like, oh, you think you know how the genre works because we're even going to tell you this is how it's working. Yeah. And now we're going to flip that shit upside down, shake it up, and see what happens. And come out with a really good conclusion.
Right, exactly. And, what I found really interesting was the diner scene, where, like, Chris Evans sits down with
Marta.
Right, Marta. So, Hugh Ransom sits down with Marta. And, it's like, okay, so I see that you finished all of your dinner there, and I see that you drank your beer. So you're going to now tell me what happened that night.
Yeah. Going to tell me the truth.
Obviously. Right. We've already seen, the whole walkthrough of what happened. But it's like, okay. He's like, I believe you. I believe that's 100%. I believe, I don't think you killed him.
Yeah.
But he was murdered. And he's like, I think, and you know what? I know he was murdered. It's like, yeah, you do. Because if you haven't figured out up to this point, Chris Evans
is
Hugh Ransom.
Yeah.
Is the killer.
Hugh Ransom Thrombey is the guy. I mean, he's not
the mastermind.
The killer. Yeah, he's the mastermind.
He's the mastermind behind everything.
Because as is revealed at the end.
Well, I mean, let's get into that. That was the genius too there at the end, and the little bits leading up to that, with the the blood tox report, having to figure that out, and we'll get into that a little bit later. That was one actually of my small critiques about the movie. Is like after it kind of started to get a little like, okay, let's move it along, a little slow for me. Like I don't think I did anyway. The reveal though at the end of like how the whole plan went down, and the fact that he actually didn't switch. How did it go again? Like she actually gave him the right dose.
Yeah, she gave him the right medicine. He did switch it.
Right.
But she gave it to him the correct way. And it's honestly all because Harlan was being a little smart ass, and he flipped the table right, and he dumped her bag out. And so she just blindly picked him up.
She blindly picked him up.
And then just grabbed them because she was talking to him.
As the detective describes, you knew.
Because you can feel the slight density difference in the bottles.
And you knew which one to give him. And then when you saw the bottle, you freaked out. And the only reason he ended up actually dying, and like that was one of like the saddest parts of like the movie for me, is like, oh, so he could be alive.
He would have been fine. Here's one of my very few gripes with this movie, though. She gives him the wrong quote unquote dose, right?
Yep.
And explains that he has 10 minutes to live.
Yep.
And then at 6 minutes to live, he explains to her how they're gonna like hide it.
Yeah.
And then it takes many more minutes for her to leave and then come back. And lo and behold, she said you have 10 minutes, and at 5 minutes you're gonna start seeing these effects. And he never, like, there couldn't have been a moment, like, why did they not? I understand it's a high tension, but like, pause and go, wait a minute. I'm not feeling any of the effects she said I was going to feel.
Right.
Something's up.
in defense of all of that, though, I will say I really enjoyed the fact that, okay, so, you know, okay, we should probably get this right. Harlan Thrombey, Christopher Plummer.
Yeah.
You know, I really enjoyed the fact that he, you know, did all the, you know, he told her how to execute this so the cops won't, you know, suspect you as the killer. And like, you really attribute that to all of the murder novels that he wrote, right?
Yeah.
And all the experience and like everything that he wrote about. And then like, even as, you know, that was all unfolding, he's like, oh, so this is actually a really great way to kill somebody, wouldn't it?
Yeah, he starts like taking notes.
Taking notes in his notebook. It's like, it's just so well. But yeah, did you like actually stop the movie and were kind of like paying attention to the time, or were you just...
No, I didn't stop it. It's just the way that, like, you can, like, especially when you revisit the movie, like, once you know how it goes, that stood out to me more. So, for context, I've watched this movie probably 3 or 4 times, including earlier today in preparation for this. And it just stands out more and more every time, as it's like, you have 10 minutes left to live. At 5 minutes, you're going to start feeling these symptoms. And then she's like panicking and gonna call the ambulance, and then he goes, Marta, I only have 6 minutes left. You need to listen to me. And it's like he's not experiencing any of the symptoms. And I don't know what the time frame actually unfolds. Like I said, I didn't stop it and like actually time it out. But it's very clear that it's like, okay. So he explains it all to her. She steps out of the room. She comes back into the room. He has gone across the room. He's got the knife. Like,
yeah.
Clearly, there's been at least enough minutes unfold that maybe, it wasn't a full 10 minutes from the moment he was injected to the moment that she actually does get out and he slits his throat. But it's got to be at minute like 8 or 9, and he's doing just fucking fine.
Yeah, he should be like, okay, so maybe the morphine should have kicked in. I should be feeling something, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
no, absolutely.
You gotta attribute that to the high.
Well, they're also like as a movie goer, you gotta get the plot moving somehow. like there's no movie if Thrombey's just like, actually, you know what? I feel fine. And roll credits, right?
Right, exactly. Like, I'm fine. It's fine. Yeah. Then the movie would have been over, like, because again, that was like within like the first quarter of the movie, right? So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it only needs to be 30 minutes. I don't actually remember the exact runtime, but
I think it's like what is it? Like a 2-hour movie? Just over 2 hours?
I think so. At least 2 hours. And you know, this is a good segue again to what I was saying earlier about. I felt that the car chase was kind of like an unnecessary scene, and then it just kind of got slow a little bit for me. Like I understand, you know, all of that was like leading up to the big reveal, but it was just like, okay, so where are we going with this?
Yeah.
You know? But
yeah, I mean, I don't know, I didn't feel like it was unnecessary. Like, could you have cut it out and the movie still operate fine? Like, yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. I just viewed it very much as like, yeah, okay, like we got to have a little bit of filler here for the conclusion, right? Like,
yeah.
We had to somehow wrap up the plot line of Fran, the housekeeper, which I gotta say here too. I gotta go on a little. This is one of my other gripes with this movie. It's such a minor gripe, but also just like for a movie, I think this is why it frustrates me. For a movie that is so smart to have such a stupid moment.
Okay.
Fran deciding to blackmail Ransom, you know, she doesn't know exactly what he did, but she knows like he had to do with Harlan's death. And so she decides to blackmail him and get this money from him. And she's the one that set the location meetup. And so it's like, all right, let's take a moment. She picks an abandoned laundromat in the dark to meet a guy that she thinks murdered his father or his grandfather, and decides I'm gonna meet him alone in the dark with no weapon and no one else to consider what's going on for the money exchange. Like, no. Anybody in that situation is going to go, you're going to leave a bag of money in a public location that I'm going to go pick up, and fuck you, see you later, Ransom. But no, she meets him, and she sets the grand plan is to meet him in a dark, sketchy area, and then think, well, surely, I think he murdered one person already, but he's not going to murder me. Like, what a stupid moment.
I agree. And, you know, when I was watching it again last night, I was like, he's coming at you.
Oh, yes.
You know, Captain America, the strong guy's coming at you. He's coming right at you.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's all she does. Is she's like,
Oh, my God. It was so stupid. So stupid. That was probably my biggest gripe with the whole movie. And I think, like I said, it's because overall the movie is such a smart movie that to just have something so dumb in it.
Yeah, and, you know, again, like, maybe that doesn't even need to be in there.
Yeah. It was an added, I don't know.
Because, like, the blood tox report would have gotten to the police anyway. And they would have found out. Well, I guess we would have found out that she would have given the correct dosage, so then it wouldn't have been her.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah.
See, that's why that plot line's in there, though, because that's how Ransom has to. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he obviously, I know it's you, but I'm gonna pin it on you anyway.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Which is so
Which so, I do gotta say, great. To give credit again where credit is due. You know, we find out that Ransom sets the medical center on fire to burn up the evidence, right? You got to really pay attention. But when Marta goes to his house with the ransom, with the blackmail note,
right?
If you pay attention in the background, there's a row of brown jugs sitting on a shelf with one missing. And then when you see the scene where Ransom burns down the medical facility, it's a brown jug.
Wow. That's a good catch. Yeah. I did not catch that.
Oh, yeah. No, so they paid like a lot. Again, this is why I go back to, for a movie that is so smart and that lays all of the answers subtly out behind, like, for you, if you're really closely paying attention, and then it has this really stupid moment.
It's really stupid moment where it's just like, wait, what? And then she dies. Ultimately.
And then she dies. Which was
good. Maybe that was the way of redeeming.
Here's the other fucked up thing, and I got to give credit where credit's due. This is not my original idea. It's an idea that I got from watching a YouTube video about this movie, and I'm not going to name it. But this particular video, they point out we as the audience are meant to, and I would say pretty much everybody, there's always going to be that one exception, that one asshole. But as the audience, cheer when we find out that she died because Ransom goes to jail longer. It's like, hold on, let's take a moment here and just think about the fact that we're like, oh, this innocent woman has died, and I'm glad, so that this asshole can go to jail for murder instead of just go to jail for a short amount of time for attempted murder. Like,
right. Yeah, well, I mean, like, let's break that down a little bit. Like, clearly he was responsible in a way for the death, but it was, a suicide.
It was genuinely a suicide.
A suicide. So, yeah, like,
other than murdering Fran,
that's just attempted murder then? Yeah, right?
Legally, Legally, he didn't do anything that wrong. Like he says when he thinks that Fran is alive, like from a legal perspective, when he thinks Fran is alive, possibly an attempted murder on Fran, not even necessarily on Harlan.
Right.
Arson. And that's about it.
Yep. He's got a good lawyer, he said. So.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah.
And so it's like the only reason the bad guy goes to jail is because an innocent person actually does die.
Well,
and we're all like, "Oh, good. I'm glad she did die."
Yep, and then in for a penny.
In for a penny, in for a pound, right?
In for a pound. Yep, going at it. And then the awesome, my family going to the beginning, right, wouldn't even know the difference between a real knife and a prop knife.
Yeah, what a throwback. Like, what a foreshadow.
Oh, yeah. Like, there was, there were the points in the movie where you're like, okay, this is foreshadowing after you watch it. And then it's like, that clearly is, but it's like so good. It was like so, well-rounded, connecting all the dots, and it's just...
No, absolutely. I think, and this one's not so much foreshadowing as just kind of bringing it full circle. And again, it's a really subtle thing, but when Marta gets to the house at the beginning of the movie, when she first comes back to the house, the way the camera work is set up, she gets out of her car and is looking up at the house and the family. And then what's the final shot of the movie? The family looking up at the house and her.
Yeah.
Like, what a way to bring it full circle.
Yeah. No.
Although, with that final shot, question, where the fuck is Nana or mom? The mom. Like, really, like,
she's probably still in the house. Let's be honest.
Yeah, like, does this mean like Marta's just like, all right, come on, Nan, you and me, we're hanging out. This is my mom. This is my sister.
And this is
Harlan's mom. Which, fun fact, despite playing Harlan's mom, the actress that plays that is actually 3 years younger than Christopher Plummer.
Really?
Yeah.
So did they make her look older, or is she not aged well?
I don't know. I didn't look that up.
My gosh, we might have to take a look at that. Yeah. So I guess wrapping up, I have to ask you, what was one of your biggest takeaways from the movie? You think? Because I already know mine.
Wow. From
a particular scene.
That's a good question. Let me think on that.
Okay.
Let's talk through yours. I got to think on that.
Mine, to provide a little comic relief here, was don't drive a Honda. Because, when, and like, I have, that's another great point too on like just the cinematography, when they just read the will, everyone's like clearly livid.
Yeah.
And, she's like, Martha's trying to back away and, the detectives help her out. And then finally she makes it out of the house, gets in her car. And then you just have all these close-ups of like the angry family members just like pissed off at her. And, the car won't start. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
So, and that was a Honda. Maybe it's a blue one. Don't drive a blue Honda. I don't know.
Fair enough, because God knows you're not going to outrun the cops either.
Oh yeah, God, She's going,
don't
is this the
commit a
fastest thing
crime.
you can do? Going 65, 70. The cops, cut
I'm
the bitch
literally
to
flooring it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, obviously don't accidentally be at the wrong place at the wrong time and maybe murder somebody and then drive a Honda. That's the biggest takeaway that I have for you guys.
I guess the
Not that I'm advocating for murder, obviously.
Well, no. The biggest takeaway is that family sucks. And your friends are only your friends as long as they get what they want. Yeah. And anybody that tells you you're like family is probably full of shit.
Dan, John over here hitting home, hitting right where it hurts.
No, I mean, like seriously though, it is. I think the big takeaway from the film is it's a classic. It's almost cliche, right? But it's like everybody loves you as long as you're doing something for them. And then the moment you're not, like you're the scum of the earth type of thing.
Yeah.
And family sucks.
It's all about me. I mean, well, I should say it's all about you until you have like 60 million, I think, right?
I don't know.
And assets, I believe he had. I don't remember. Plus, everything else.
Then
it's me. And it's
right. Here's my thing. Like so. And I mean, I guess like she got the money too. So I guess that's how I was gonna say like. Man, she's gonna get that first like utility bill, then taxes at the end of the year. I hope Harlan had an accountant and she got to hire him.
I will be honest, I would not want to see the heating bill for that old house though.
Absolutely not.
God no.
Absolutely not. Well, I know you're trying to wrap it up here, but one thing, I'd be remiss if I didn't point it out because I went through all the trouble of screenshotting this. Shout out Reddit.
Forgot about this.
Really small detail. I don't know if you looked at it already, but while the movie itself does not play out in real time, all of the clocks do. So in the movie, Rian Johnson confirmed this in an interview. Anytime a clock or a phone is in the set, they had somebody that had to just pay really close attention to the time and basically go back and double check. Okay, well, how long is it supposed to be since the last time we saw the time on screen? Huh. And the clocks always are in sync with real time of the movie. So again, going back to just how well they did of just setting up these super small details to just continually draw you in. And I mean, like, that's a detail that nobody's going to notice instinctively. No. But you might notice if there's, like, a clock that is very clearly wrong. Like, nobody's going to notice if it's right.
Well,
but you're going to notice if it's clearly
like something
wrong.
That's, like, 5-10 years down the road, and you have like the super like cult of like the movie, the fan cults, fans. Right? Yeah, that have watched the movie 1,000 times and they've literally like paused it frame for frame, right, and broken everything down. Then,
yeah. But, so no, overall, Knives Out, great movie. Super excited for the sequel down the road. But also, I have to say, like, it's almost concerning with the movie because, like, number one, what do you do in the next one, right? Like, how do you live up to this? But also, like, this movie is set up to be franchisable, right? Like, it is set up to be franchisable because exactly what they're probably doing with the sequel. All you have to do is follow Blanc to his next mystery. Right. Just like with the Agatha Christie Murder on the Orient Express, we're getting the new movie Death on the Nile coming out next year.
Oh, okay.
But just like that, where you just follow the detective to their next mystery, and so it's like, cool, so we can just keep making these. But also, and as an avid horror movie fan, I can attest to this more than any other genre. Once you set your franchise up to be the just never-ending sequel generator, you usually only get a few good sequels out of that bad boy, and then you're like, all right, what are we doing? Like,
right. I mean,
like what is Knives Out 7 is gonna be Benoit Blanc in space fighting Jason Voorhees,
and before that it was underwater, some ocean
absolutely
station.
It's like a Dr. Seuss rhyme on a plane, on a train.
Yeah, for real. I mean, looking at like the money, I think this movie was budgeted at like $30 million, and that was like the cost. And then I think box office though brought in like $400 million. So
yeah, it had a pretty hefty box office. Here we go. Let me see. I think I might have it right up here. Maybe not. All right, I was wrong. I don't.
Well, and they're gonna keep making it. Obviously, if it keeps making money.
Okay, so the budget was approximately $40 million. In the United States, it grossed $165 million. 26 million of which came on opening weekend, and then worldwide box office was 309 million.
Dang. Yeah. See.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that payday.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess I was thinking about this. Maybe we should give some kind of rating for the movies that we review. I have no idea, or things that we review. So do you want to give an overall rating? Do you want to break it down by like production, cinematography, plot?
I think we can just give it an overall rating. So, I mean, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Well, I guess if I was going to go out of 5 stars, I would probably have to say, for me, 4. I'd give it a 4 out of 5. No, you know what? I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5. It was a great movie. The only reason that I probably wouldn't give it a 5 out of 5, and like this is probably more of a me thing. It's just like the rewatchability. Like going back and watching it again isn't necessarily something that I would probably do. But that's more of a personal preference too.
Yeah.
At the same time.
No, that's true. Yeah, for me, I'd say I'm gonna hijack your rating. I'm all about self promotion. So I'm gonna give it a solid. I'm gonna give it a solid 4.5 bottles of rum out of 5.
There we go. There we go. I like it.
Yeah, no, I would say like it's very well done. It's very well shot. The cast is spectacular. It's a smart movie. It has some glaring it has some key moments that you have to suspend, suspension of disbelief. Which every movie does. Has very few mistakes, but the ones it does have are just so glaring, and I think though that's a tribute to how good the rest of it is. I definitely would recommend it. I think it has some more rewatchability, but primarily because I think the rewatchability factor is once you know the storyline, at that point you rewatch it to see what you missed. And there are certainly a number of things that as I've watched this movie on the second, third, and I think fourth time around, I think I've watched it 4 times. There are so many little things that you start to notice that are either just little detail-oriented things in terms of just like how well they set up the world, but also so many little things that like breadcrumb you from the beginning of the movie what the twists are. And so because of that, yeah, I'd say 4.5. 4.5 bottles of rum, yo ho, me hearties, yo ho.
Well, there you have it. And I guess one last thing that I'll throw in with rewatchability, Knives Out 2 coming out. Obviously, I'm going to probably have to rewatch this one again, before the second one comes out, just so I, get back into the atmosphere.
Get back into the groove.
Get back into the groove and then watch the second one. But, yeah, there you have it. Total, we would give it a 4.5 bottles of rum. out of 5. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
So stupid. Like, I know it was my idea, but it's such a stupid, corny idea. I love it, though. We're gonna keep it. We're keeping it.
We're rolling with it now. Unless we get a whole bunch of bad comments. Like, what the hell are you?
Nah, just like Ryan Johnson, we have to stick our middle finger to the internet troll. So if you don't like it, if there's anything you don't like, don't tell us about it, because we're just gonna stick our middle finger up.
Yeah, just throw it right back at you.
Actually, my good friend, shout out John, back in the Quad Cities. He's gonna at least pretend to watch it. We talked about it last night. So,
watch or listen.
Well, watch, listen, observe. Yeah. So, all right, I'll shut up. Let you do the outro here.
That's the outro, everyone. Go check out Knives Out.
Love it. Go watch it. It's free on Amazon Prime if you've got Amazon Prime. Yeah, Bye.
Yeah. Bye.